Let's now define another method at the student management system level. Remember, in the student class, we actually got one method called getGPA. Okay, let's review how getGPA works first of all, and then we'll see how we can reuse the method as a helper method at the student management system level. Okay, now let's say this is what we have got so far. Okay, so now let's see how we can get a GPA for the two students. Let's say review that very quickly. Okay, so now let's say let me use green over here. So when I say S1 be the context object that get GPA, what you will do is, remember we also got in the student class a get grade point over here. So based on what your letter grades are, you can also get the corresponding grade points. And how do we get a letter grade? It depends on another helper method at the course record class, right? You can see in the course record class, we also got another helper method there called get letter grade. Okay, so you really, again, a chain of method calls you should really study by yourself. Okay, let's go back there and see how this works. So I'll just review on the iPad very quickly. Okay, so now when I say S1 not get GPA, what you will do is you will go along depending on what NOC is. In the case NOC is actually 3, we'll go through the indices of 0, 1, and 2. So 0, 1, and 2, excluding NOC itself, is strictly less than NOC. Okay, so now for each course record objects, we'll get its letter grades. So we know that for this particular one, the letter grade for 72 is B. Okay, and then for this particular one, we know that letter grade 65 is C+. And for this one over here, the letter grade is A. Okay, and also we have the get grade points helper method to convert. You can see for every letter grade that we got, and we also try to convert the letter grade into grade points. Okay, so now in this case, let me just use a different color here. For B is going to be 7.0, and C plus is going to be 6.5, and for A is going to be 8.0. Right? And then we sum them up together. So in this case, it will be the sum will just be 7 plus 6.5, 13.5, and 21.5, right? And then the GPA will be the grade points sum divided by the number of courses we have, right? So that will be 21.5 divided by 3. That will be 7.1 and then 6, something like that. I think we did that in the previous student tester. You can just review that by yourself. I think we did that somewhere. Get GPA over here. So that's exactly what we did. Okay, I forgot. It's 7.16 or something like that. Okay, so that's a GPA we got at the student level for S1. What about S2? It will be computed in a similar way. So now when we say S2 being the context object and say S2 not get GPA, so now S2 will be the context objects. So now we also go over index 0, 1, and 2 because the NOC is of value 3. Okay, let's do that very quickly. So now for this first course object over here, 77, so that's B+. And then for the second course object over here is 64, so that should be C, because it's strictly less than 65, right? So now that'll be C. And then for this one over here is 93, so that will be A+. Okay, and when we're gonna calculate the corresponding grade points. So for this one here, B+, it will be 7.5. And then for C it will be 6.0, and then for A+, it will be 9.0. Okay, so what will be the sum of the grade points? In that case, 13.5, 22.5, right? So yes, 22.5, and then we divide that by the GPA will be the number, this number over here divided by the number of courses over here, 3. So that'll be 7.5, I believe, right? Okay, that's a GPA for that. Okay, so now we got a GPA for individual students, which we can just calculate using the get GPA method we defined before at the student level. So now, let's say we also want to support a get GPA method at the SMS level. So let's say SMS. Let's say the SMS is the context object we have over here. And now, if we want to support a get GPA method, let's say we want to know what's the average of the GPA for all the students in the management system. Okay, so now in this case, it'll be quite easy. We can simply just get. You can think about this what we want to do. Let me use green. We know that number of students is simply 2, so we only consider SMS dot students at position 0, and also we consider SMS dot students at position 1. So these are the only 2 students we consider because NOS is only 2. So only consider these 2 positions. And then for each one of them, we can call get GPA, as we just did. Get GPA. Okay, and then for this one over here, as we said, it should be 7.16. And for this one over here, we just did, it should be 7.5. And what should be the average? We can sum them up, which would be 14.66. And then that'll be the sum. And then we can also average. And average would be divided by the number of students over here. So that'd be 7.33. Okay, that's more or less the answer we should get. Okay, so that's kind of conceptually how it works, which is not too difficult. You just want to sum up the GPA for individual students, accumulate them together, and divide them up by the number of students to get an average. Okay, how do we do that? So in this case here, again, we don't really use the index of students method in this particular case because we are not trying to find out any matching students with the student name. We just want to go through every student and call their GPA. Okay, and then accumulate them together. Okay, let's see how we can do this in Java. Rather easy. So student management system over here. So now what we can get is we can have, let's say here, double get GPA. Okay, I'll just call it GPA, or we can call it average GPA if you like. Okay, return the average of all students' GPAs. Okay, let's see that. So now what we can do is we can say for integer I is assigned to 0, I is less than this dot NOS. Remember, we do not put this dot students dot length. That's not something we put. You must put this dot NOS, otherwise you run into null pointer exception. If you still are not sure about this, go to the previous video when we talk about the student class. Okay, and then I plus plus. Okay, over here. So now what we can do is we can have a double and then sum is initially 0.0 and then sum plus equal over here, right? How do we get a GPA for individual students? This dot students at position I, which will be the students, and I can be 0 or 1. In the case where I is equal to 0, that means we are talking about this particular students at position 0. And when I is incremented to 1, that means we are talking about this particular students at position 1. Okay? And what we do is you can say get GPA, accumulate that together, and then you can say you can just do another double. Average is the sum divided by this dot the number of students. Remember that you do not put this dot students dot length, because in this case, if you say SMS dot students dot length, it will give you 6, which is not accurate because we only got 2 students as opposed to the array being of size 6. So these are 2 different concepts. Okay, that's what we will get. Hopefully this will just work. And then what I will do is, of course, I gotta eventually return this average. Don't worry. Okay, so now let's go back to SMS tester over here and let's try to see what we get. Okay, so now we'll say as out, and then we can say GPA of all students in SMS. Okay, you can say SMS dot, get GPA. Okay, over here. Let's see what we get in this case. Run the tester. Okay, we got 7.3. Okay, 7.33. That's pretty much what I calculated, right? Okay, that's good. But we can format it a little bit better. So what we can do is, you can try to see, what you can do is, you can say double GPA of SMS is assigned to SMS.getGPA. Okay, that one would be exactly this number over here, but we can format it a little bit better. So what you can do is, you can say string.formats percentage sign .2f and then GPA of SMS. Okay, and let's try it one more time. We should get 7.33. Okay, that's exactly what we get. So that's the GPA for the SMS, exactly how we predicted. Let me just do one more thing. Let me again show you the debugger. It's really important to know how the debugger works. Okay, let's launch the debugger over here, and we'll pause at this line. Okay, let's pause at this line. Let's now step into to see how the get GPA works. So now this get GPA over here is at the level of student management system. Okay, so now you can see this .nos, if you move your mouse over, is actually 2. That means I counter will be 0 and 1. As soon as it reaches 2, we'll exit from the loop. And then we'll go step over. So now for the very first iteration, this .students at position, you can see I over here is now 0. So now that's the first iteration. This .students at position 0. And then get GPA. And then we'll say get GPA. And the GPA would be, let's see over here. Let's just do the following. So now if you say step over, you will see the sum has been accumulated by 7.1666. Okay, that's exactly what we calculated, right? Over here, okay? And then now after, for the second iteration over there, so what we will have is, you can see now I has the value 1. Right? That's exactly what the second iteration is. SMS.students at position 1 .get GPA. After we accumulate that into sum, we'll get 14.666. Okay, over here. That's exactly what we get over here. Okay, that's a sum. Okay? Eventually, we just divide that by the number of students over here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Okay, that's about it. So basically, in this tutorial video, what we did was we just defined this get GPA method at the level of the SMS student management system class. And notice that we are just calling the get GPA. Oh, beg your pardon. I meant to see here. So the get GPA method over here for the student management system, it also in turn calls the get GPA method at the student level as a helper method. Okay, you should really try to get used to how you can call the helper methods from another class or in the current class. We have seen many examples in this particular tutorial series. You should really try to study every case carefully.